I'm Chris.
I'm Scott.
We're two guys brewing, and we're going to have some fun today. We want to teach you how to brew.
We're gonna do a real basic brew kit, extract brew kit.
Basically, we've been brewing for about 20 years or so, on and off, and lately we've decided this is a lot of fun, so we're doing it a lot more lately. Doing a lot of research too.
Today's brew session is going to be one that any beginner can jump right in and do. It's no special equipment, just as big a pot as you can find, and add the water ingredients and brew away.
Yeah. I went down and I said, I need the simplest kit you got. And so they hooked us up. So, future shows we're going to do a little more, a little more in-depth stuff. But today you just want to know what ale yeast is, what lager yeast is, and what hops is, and nothing more than that.
Let's show them what you get in your basic kit.
Okay, open that puppy up. Here.
Alright, we got your directions. This is important. You want to read these?
You do. I don't know. But you want to read them, especially if you've never done this before. Alright.
Okay, canna. Liquid malt extract. Comes in cans, sometimes comes in a half-gallon plastic jug or so on and so forth.
It is
Alright, right here we've got
dry malt extract.
dry malt extract.
Big difference is how much moisture is in them. Got corn sugar, rice syrup solids,
Okay, another.
those, and the hops. We have two kinds of hops for this batch.
Alright. They're calling this American Light Beer. It's gonna be something like a Budweiser, Miller, Coors, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's my guess. That'd be my guess. Don't blame me.
Yep.
That's pretty much what you're going to need to put into the brew pot. And then after everything's all done, you need to put some yeast in there. It's Nottingham. Type doesn't matter, it's just the ale yeast, that's all you really need to know. Any ale yeast would work for this.
And dry yeast, very forgiving for beginners.
Great stuff.
Easy, reliable.
And then when you get down to the point where you're ready to put it in bottles in a few weeks, you need priming sugar and bottle caps.
Bottles.
And bottles. They don't give you the bottles. I don't know what the
bottles don't come in the kit.
They don't give you a capper either. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a defective kit. So actually, this is my friend Steve. Get over here in the shot, Steve. He's here. He's never brewed before. We invited him down today to show that anybody can do this.
So we're going to make him do it all.
He's even a retail manager.
I'll do the mule.
The mule. Now you got a kit, right?
Yes.
How long have you had it now?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
and your wife is really thrilled about that, isn't
Yes.
The beer doesn't age that way.
No, it's not like mine. Yeah.
she? Now, have you opened the kit? Have you ever looked inside of it?
I have. Looks very similar to what you have there as far as because I also got the starter kit and then I have the buckets very similar to what you have here. So.
Everything ready to go.
Yeah.
Once you see how easy it is, a couple hours time,
Yeah,
you're off.
You may need some new yeast, but we can hook you up.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, which pot are we gonna use, Chris? There.
This is a canner. I took all the cuts out of it, but this is a canner. This is aluminum. And if you go online, you're going to hear all sorts of people telling you, never use an aluminum pot. My God, you're going to get Alzheimer's and die, and it makes the beer taste bad. And don't listen.
The great debate.
Don't listen to them.
Aluminum's fine.
Aluminum's fine. After you've been doing this, you're going to want to get yourself a stainless steel and all that. But if you probably have one of these in your cupboard, or your grandmother has one, or your aunt, or somebody you can borrow, your neighbor, easy.
All right, there's some more aluminum ions in one Tums than there probably is in 10 batches of beer that you brew. So.
This kit actually calls for using 2.5 gallons of water.
At least.
Generally,
Or if you can.
what I would recommend if you have the room, this is a 5-gallon batch. Do the full 5 gallons. Boil the whole thing. You're going to actually add more water even at the end, even doing 5, but you're only going to be adding, a few quarts instead of, 2/3 of the volume. And you might even, what I've done before is split it between 2 pots, which is a possibility. We're going to do this all in one pot and just add it up in the end. And
Get the biggest pot you can find. You know, up to 5, 6 gallons.
Yeah, if you got
know,
5 1-gallon
got-
pots that only got 4 burners, it doesn't work.
You can brew in an enamel pot like this.
Yeah, those are
they
actually
work
pretty
fine. If you do have one of these, you might want to, sure, you know. I just don't use them if they have rust spots in them.
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't. And they,
I'm not proud.
each his own.
Alright, so we'll just get the gas going.
Turn some heat on.
Now, this is a gas stove. Gas stoves are great. You can use an electric. Just got to keep a little closer eye on things with electric because as you start adding stuff in there, you want to boil out and make a terrible mess. If you got electric, it's not a problem. The only problem you might have is if you got, what's your stove?
Yeah, I have an induction cooktop, and most pots will not work. The magic test is if a magnet sticks to the pot, it'll work. A lot of today's aluminum cookware and even some stainless steel will not work. And I'm always nervous about how much weight I wouldn't want to put a 10-gallon pot on there.
No.
It's
No.
it's a ceramic top.
But if you got the old, electric ring stoves, they're fine. Like I said, you just want to be careful when you're putting your ingredients in. Usually for the first minute or two you want to watch it because that's when it'll boil over when you throw in, especially the dry malt extract, the DME, that tends to blow up in your hops.
And boilovers are messy, so if you can avoid it.
There's a few things you can do for a boilover. Keep an eye on it. With the gas stove, you can just shut the gas off, and you're good to go. It'll settle right down. Electric, pick it up and move it. I've heard people saying you can blow on it. I've never done it.
A little spray of cold water will knock the foam right down.
Yeah, I've got to break the surface tension in the bubbles. It'll be fine. Keep an eye on it because cleaning up wort from all over your floor is a mess. And wort, what's wort? It's the beer that's not been fermented.
Right.
You start mixing your malt extracts and your water. That's wort.
Sweet water.
Good stuff.
Most of the stuff is actually sugar. Sugar that all the yeast are gonna chew on and turn into alcohol for us. Do you save money brewing your own beer, Chris?
I do. I don't know with this kit though. Let's see. We're doing 5 gallons, and the kit cost me a little over $30. So that's $15 a case. That's about the price of a case of beer at Walmart. Not the good stuff though. So.
There's an initial equipment investment. If you don't count that in the beginning, then yes, certainly you can save some money over it.
Yeah.
And you get better beer too. Then that's the real kicker, right? You get better beer for less money. So.
Yeah, and the kits, you get a good beer, and there's lots of different selections you can go. They got stouts and lagers and reds and Marzens, whatever your favorite kind of beer is. There's a kit for that.
Thousands of different kinds of kits, and then you get a little bit more advanced, and you start making up your own recipes instead of using the ones that. But kits make good beer; they're reliable, and it's a great way to start out if you have the urge to start home brewing. So, good way to go.
All right, we're boiling here. So we're gonna add our liquid malt extract. Actually, according to the recipe here, we go with get our liquid malt extract and our Brewer's Gold hops. So we're going to do that now. All right, Steve, here you go. Have fun.
We did introduce Stevie in the beginning here, right?
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. You're blocking the camera, man.
It's alright.
Just kidding.
Oh, that does look good.
What do you think, boss? We got it all out?
Oh yeah.
Look pretty good?
Yep, clean as a whistle.
And not much label in there either. So.
Sweet.
Okay.
Nice. Continue to stir, continue to, I like to stir. I always feel like I'm adding love.
Hang on a minute. All right, Stevie. All right, so it's been, we just added our liquid malt extract, and now we're going to add our Brewer's Gold hops.
You want me to add these now?
Add those now. I don't know if we mentioned it, but when you're brewing, your boil is a certain length, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, and you count down. So generally speaking, if you're looking at a recipe online and they say add hops at 60 minutes, when you've got 60 minutes left in the boil, that's when you put the hops in. If they say add hops at 20 minutes, it's when 20 minutes before the boil is done. So very important to make sure that you understand that. Sometimes, read your directions carefully though. You know, some of the kits and even some recipes online that I've looked at don't follow that convention. It can be a little bit confusing. So just make sure that the directions that you're following are the standard, or that you at least understand why they're different. But usually the general convention is you start at the full boil and work your way down.
So, bittering hops go in first. They don't have much floral aroma or anything like that, but they do.
All right, so we've been boiling here for about 20 minutes. Now we're going to add our pound of dry malt extract, or 6 ounces of corn sugar, or 8 ounces of corn sugar, and 8 ounces of rice syrup solids.
All right.
So kind of dump all those in there.
Dumping it.
There we go. Keep an eye on it, make sure it doesn't boil over.
We want it. Right.
So
Here, you can keep your hand on the throttle there, Stevie.
Oh,
I'll keep
yeah,
my
yeah.
hand on the spoon. You're all right. Watch here. It's all right. If
If it starts to,
it'll come up
you
quick.
gotta cut it.
Yep, and then cut it. If it doesn't come up quick, then it's all good. We don't want to burn it or stick it to the bottom of the pot or anything either, so we just keep stirring and stirring.
So then,
Yeah, you want it as high as it will go. But it doesn't hurt to stir it. Now, you don't have to stir it constantly, but you don't want to scald it either.
Whatever,
Which
yeah.
you normally don't, but you can. Especially when you first add everything and it all sinks to the bottom. Then you start caramelizing those sugars.
Sure.
And beer's a lot like cooking. There's those,
it is. I mean,
you know.
this is your spice.
Sometimes you want to sear a steak, but sometimes you don't. And
It's all chemistry, which is actually what cooking is.
Yeah.
And baking
Right.
and cooking are both very much chemistry.
$3.54
I was gonna say
a
$3,
pint.
$4 a pint.
Yeah,
And
$3.54 a pint.
Oh, boil over. And that's why I watch the pot. All right. Let me whip it up real quick.
So now it's boiling.
Yeah, it's boiling.
Yeah, it boiled.
All right. You see how that went down?
It goes down quick, but it's messy.
It's very messy. Well, we caught it. This is Star San. So no rinse sanitizer. It's great stuff for cleaning all everything you need, sterilizing, sanitizing. I don't know what's sterilizing it. It takes about a quarter ounce per gallon, or 2 ounces for 5 gallons. So it's 1 ounce for 5 gallons. 1 ounce for 5 gallons.
for 5 gallons.
So it's goes a long way, keeps a long time. I've got a bunch already made up, but usually I mix up about a gallon when I need it. So I take a quarter ounce of this, got a little squeeze bottle, I squeeze it, comes up into the little reservoir with a measurer, pour it in, put the water in, and you're good to go. Everything, soak it, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, contact, and you're pretty good. It kills most of the wild yeasts and bacteria, anything that can make your beer taste off. We got another example of easy clean, no rinse.
Good no
cleanser.
rinse cleaner.
This is ID Carlson makes this, or at least packages it up. Wash surfaces with solution, no rinsing required. 1 tablespoon per gallon of warm water. That's a Star sand is a liquid. This is a powder. Just need to make sure everything is clean.
Mix it up like it says, and what you have is a sanitizer. It keeps until the pH is above 3.
There you go.
It lasts a long time.
Okay, we've been boiling for about 50 minutes. We've got about 10 minutes left. And we're going to add our cluster hops at this point. You do definitely want to kind of stir it as you're adding the hops, because you don't want to have that boil over going on. Alright, and the next step is going to be cooling it down.
Getting our sink, our ice bath ready for cooling it down.
Here you go, Steve.
Oh yeah.
Alright, okay, so we've been, we're done with the boil. We're going to shut the gas off.
A little bit of deja vu here. Let's see.
And get that over into the water bath. We're going to cool this down to about 70 degrees. There's definitely better ways of doing it. We're just doing it the quickest, easiest, simplest way tonight so that you can do it at home. I mean, a wort chiller is great, but they're going to run you $70. And if you're brewing a $10 batch of beer, $70 is a lot of money.
Just keep changing the water in your sink. Cool it down as fast as you can.
About 3 changes of water usually will be enough to get to cool the water, to cool the wort to pitching temperature. I usually shoot for about 90 degrees. This kit actually calls for 70.
Don't let your sink get so full that your pot starts floating around and all of a sudden you have tap water running into your beer. That's not good. Been there, done that.
Drink the product.
It's not the end of the world. No reason to throw out your beer. All right. Temperature we at there.
About 90.
All right. You happy with that?
Yeah.
We're going to throw some 70-degree water in there.
Oh yeah.
Let Steve.
Probably a lot of it. All right, Steve. There you go.
All right. Let's.
Lots of air. Lots of air.
Try not to get all the junk off the very bottom.
There ain't no junk.
Shrub.
There ain't no trouble. I mean, there's some hops, but
Yeah. Guess there's not much
you don't
trouble.
gotta worry about it.
Never
right
mind,
now.
just dump it all in there.
Dump it in there fast.
There's no trouble.
All right. Now, ready? Dump that bucket back into here fast.
Aerating here.
Aerating.
This is the only place you don't want to use a siphon.
It's the one time that you want to aerate your beer. The only and the one time.
Okay, so we've got a little bit less than 2 gallons in there. We want to bring it up to that 5-gallon mark there. That thing holds about half a gallon.
So
You're gonna need a few of those. So
Yeah.
6.
6 of them.
6 plus. All right. Talk about some airlocks here.
Right.
We got 2 different kinds of airlocks.
3-piece.
Yeah, 3-piece. This
S.
is 3-piece. It's got 1, 2, 3 pieces. This one, the S lock,
Call it an S lock.
also usually has a cover, but I throw them out because they annoy me. Either one of them will go right into your ale pail. Here's a lid for the ale pail. I can plug right in that little ground
Into
there.
your bung.
Or if you're using a carboy, little bung here, goes right in there, and then that goes right into the top of the carboy. So they both work. I like these better. Generally, I just like them better as a personal preference. Whatever works for you. They each have their uses.
Okay. Well, say yes. All right.
Sprinkle it on there. You could. That's. I've done yeast that way several times, and it always works.
So we're fine. Just gonna pop the lid on there. All right, Stevie. Ready to put the lid on?
Fasten it in there.
Fasten it in there.
All sterilized and such.
Go right around, get it clamped down there as best you can.
Just keep checking it everywhere. Yep. Round and round and round.
Let's see, it looks like it's
Looks pretty good.
We're good.
All right, and then we can use some Star Sands in there. You can use water. Some people use vodka.
I use Star Sand. Vodka is a good idea.
There's
Water's not a bad idea, especially like.
max fill line on here. You don't want to be over that, but other than that,
And usually I feel a little under it because I spray it with star sand out of my spray bottle, and I'm usually a little even lower.
But you can
Kinda
use water.
twist-
I use water all the time.
Twist that, be a little bit gentle, watch that. I push many grommets into my
Like I'm starting to do right
barrel. It doesn't have to be, that's good, you're fine. It's
Yeah, like I said, it'll probably take 12 to 24 hours for that to start working.
sometimes it takes 72 hours. So don't get nervous, don't be, let it
Okay, we've been fermenting for about a day now, and if you look real close, you can see that there's quite a bit of activity inside the wort, and everything's kind of moving around in there. You can see that there's a nice level of foam on top, quite a bit. There's no trub sitting on the bottom at all. And there's quite a bit of activity in the airlock. It's kind of moving quite a bit there. This is 3 days into the fermentation. You can see there's still quite a bit of foam on top, much less activity inside, and there's quite a bit of trub settled out on the bottom. If you watch here though, there's a bit of blow up, some trub moving around, so there's definitely some activity still going on inside. But not quite as much, not near as much particulates floating around in there. And if you look at the airlock, it's definitely still moving, but not nearly as much activity as on day one. And day 4, you can see there's still that level of foam is definitely going down. There's hardly any particulate movement. The trub is settled out. There's still some fermentation, some airlock movement, but not a lot. It's definitely slowed down significantly from day 1, even from day 3. It's quite a bit slower now. And then on day 6, there's still some fermentation going on. You can see if you look there, there's no foam. That's just a little bit of scum on the side of the carboy. Absolutely no movement inside that you can see with the naked eye. And the airlock is slowed down. I was filming for about a minute and a half, and there was only one little bloop going on.
Alrighty, this is the American ale we brewed last week, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a test of the controversy of whether you should leave your beer in a primary fermenter or if you should move it into a secondary. What we're going to do is we're going to take half of the beer out of this primary and stick it into a secondary. We're going to leave the other half in the primary fermenter. And we're going to taste test them both, and we'll see which one is good and which one is better. So, unfortunately, with my racking cane here, I'm going to have to use a siphon. It's not the end of the world if you're siphoning. It definitely works really good if you need to get gas out of your neighbor's car. So. Alright, so we got about half of the beer in there. Actually, technically at this point it is beer. It's not
Wort.
completely fermented out, but it's pretty close. And if you drank enough of it, you'd probably get a hangover. You wouldn't enjoy it at all because it's not even close to being good tasting yet. But it is, it's definitely beer. So this is going to be this is a secondary fermenter. This is a carboy. You can actually use those as a primary. You don't have to use them as a secondary. They do make very good secondary fermenters though. And this is our ale pail that we put everything in last week. These do not make good secondary fermenters though. Especially this one. Actually had to call my homebrew supply man there And so I told him, because I said, you know, hey, I bought this ale pail and it didn't seal. I'm getting, it's not bubbling. And he's like, yep, sometimes that happens. You're only using it as a primary. So what CO2 is heavier than air. So when the beer produces CO2, it'll fill up, and that protects the beer from the air, the oxygen in the air, and anything like that. So you try not to disturb the CO2 too much. And I was pretty careful about when I did this to not stir it up too much, get too much air in there. So we should be good. But I'd have been much happier if that had been blooping away the way it's supposed to. But we're good. This will sit. And we're going to let this sit another 2 weeks, and then we're going to sample them, and we'll see which one actually tastes better once we bottle them. And they will be bottle conditioned a little bit. So.
The brew we did a couple weeks ago into a
Well, actually,
secondary
yeah.
and in the primary, and apparently our secondary has picked up an infection. Now, an infection's not necessarily a bad thing, and this one might actually be a really good thing. Only problem is, it's going to take like a year to find out. So, we're not sure what to do with it yet, but we're not ready to pitch it and dump it out.
Yeah. Never had an infection. 20 years, neither of us.
Never
and
had,
boom.
never had an infection. Not
We're-
like that before.
We were. Matter of fact, that
You
was
gonna
one of
open
the,
that?
yeah. I'm gonna open that up. Go ahead. You want to open that up? Matter of fact, we were just talking about that was one of the problems that can happen with with
never gonna
moving
open
into a
one up.
secondary was an infection. And we'll see what the beer in the primary looks like. And I've checked it out a couple of times, and it looked pretty
we want
darn
to do
good.
this without introducing any dust or, you know,
but-
we try to be careful.
But you can see there's no infection, just some bubbles. Those are just normal fermentation bubbles. So
that
clearly
looks-
the problem was not in
Perfectly
the beer,
normal to
which
me.
so the problem definitely was the transfer. And I was going to blame Scott. He tried blaming me. So we determined it's Dionysus's fault. We're going to blame him. Tub of Star Sand. Made this up a couple weeks ago. It's still pretty good stuff. I've only used it once or twice. Got a bunch of bottles. We're doing, because we pulled so much out of this batch, we probably only need about enough to do it, about a case. But I'm cleaning up a case and a half of bottles, just so I have extra, because if I don't have enough bottles, then I'm bumming when I'm holding up the end of my wrapping cane and there's no bottles to put the beer in. So do a few extra. We're going to be bottling our American Light Ale today. This is the stuff we made a few weeks ago. I usually clean the bottles up pretty good when I put them away. I try and make sure there's no junk in them, nothing growing in there. Because if they sit around for a few days, you'll get mold and stuff growing in there. So you want to make sure when you put them away, you get all that crap out of there. Then when you're ready to go, you just got to sanitize them, kind of rinse the dust out, and you're good to go.
Now, Star Sand, when you're using it, can leave some bubbles behind and stuff. Star Sand is a no rinse sanitizer.
Yeah.
So there's no need to rinse these bottles after. There's some bubbles here and there.
Yeah. Once they sit for a few minutes, you may end up with some more, water on the bottom of them here. And you just, if you want to take them and just kind of tip them over and dump that little bit extra out, you're good to go. Racking cane, need to sterilize that. Put that in the Star Sand. Look at that. Bottle caps. Anything that's going to be touching your beer at this point, you want sterilized. Sanitized. I like to sanitize my bottle capper. I've never heard anybody say that it's something that you should do. But
Maybe, but you're right. It makes sense.
it
doesn't hurt.
it's not hurting that thing any. It's just plastic and metal. It'll dry. And we got our priming sugar. Most people recommend with priming sugar is you cook it with boil it with a little bit of water, and then cool it down. This recipe, first of all, I never do that with priming sugar. I've never ever had a problem with that. And I don't know that the directions even said to do that with this. I don't remember.
What is your plan, Chris?
We are actually going to, on 2 or 3 bottles, we're actually going to put the sugar right in the bottle and then put the beer in on top of it and cap it. That's just to show that you can do it that way. Most people will take the beer, put it into a priming container of some kind, mix the priming sugar with it, and then bottle it. We're going to do that with most of it because it's much easier, but if you don't have a bottling bucket or some other secondary container, for years I did put the sugar right into my bottles. And that's it. We need to sanitize a little funnel. Little funnel. Haven't used that in a long time. Magic book. This is home brewing, no, home beer making. It's a beginner book. There's tons of beginner books out there. This is, if you bought a kit with the ale pail and everything in it, there's a fair chance that this book came with it. Only because my buddy Stevie had the same book with his kit. But you can pick it up at your beer store. They're cheap, and it really goes into pretty much in depth all the beginner stuff that you're gonna ever need. It doesn't do a lot on the more advanced, but if you're just starting out, a book is a wonderful thing because it's really tough to fast forward and rewind our little webcast here. Much easier to flip through a couple of pages of the book.
From memory, I think you want around a half teaspoon. As a matter of fact, I think that might be too much. So even a quarter teaspoon.
I think I put in 3/4 of a teaspoon.
Yeah.
But that might have been in 16-ounce bottles when I was
think a
doing.
half, half
would be
Welsh
good.
bottles or something. A half or a quarter. I wouldn't go more than a half is too much.
Yeah. Well, like I said, in 16-ounce bottles, I think I just put 3/4 of a
Don't
teaspoon
know how
in.
many ounces.
And I definitely had some gushers. So yeah, I was probably putting in too much. So we'll go with a half a teaspoon. All right, so here's our ale pail. Here's our bottles, all sanitized up. Just wish this was a little drier.
It's a funnel.
It's a little funnel, sanitized funnel. Not quite as dry as I'd like it. Sanitized teaspoon. Also, actually, I want a half teaspoon, right? Experiment.
Yeah, don't go more than a half.
The first batch, try. You know what? Go online and look up. There will be people that are going to tell you, first of all, don't do it. It's way more difficult than it needs to be, and blah 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 blah. You know, hey, if this is what you got to do, it's what you got to do. Ignore the haters. But you know, there are many forums out there, and there are people that will give you accurate information. And I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't some kind of a calculator to tell you.
I'm sure there
how many
actually
ounces
is. And,
your bottle is, how much priming sugar you need, and if it's granulated sugar or DME or corn sugar, each one's going to have a different.
Corn sugar to me always looks a lot like, kind of like confectioner's sugar. But
Not
it's
the same.
not.
Not the same
It's
thing.
not the same thing.
Never use
Don't
confectioner's
use
sugar.
confectioner's sugar, but you can use table sugar.
Yes.
Like
Confectioner's
regular
sugar is
has cornstarch
cornstarch in it,
and you don't want that.
and you're just
in
going to make your beer cloudy.
Right. Yep. Just it's not really. It's only half sugar. It has cornstarch in it that you don't want in your beer. So don't use. But this is.
So I'm gonna do a 6-pack like this today. All right, so this 6-pack here on the end is it's got they're all primed with half a teaspoon of corn sugar. We're gonna pop this little fellow open.
Well, why don't we? All right, you need to fill them first. Okay.
Yeah, and then we're gonna put the rest in there, and we'll figure out how many gallons we have because I got all those nice little handy dandy marks on that bucket.
Sweet.
So we'll know how many ounces roughly. Maybe we'll pull out, and it still looks good. Still no infection on us.
Let me hold that for
You
you.
hold that for me. Keep an eye on the yeast cake. Now, the bottom of this ale pail, there is a yeast cake down here. In theory, all the yeast and the proteins and the hops and everything else is settled out and sitting right on the bottom. So you don't want to put this all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, you don't.
This one actually, I just picked this up. Yours, when you buy one, should have one of these little things that helps to keep it up off the bottom. Brilliant little invention. I didn't have one until recently, and I love it. This is actually set up to go right into a regular carboy.
Carboy.
I have very few carboys I use as primary fermenters. They're all full of wine. So. All right.
Life's hell.
Yep.
What are you gonna do?
We're gonna lower that down into the drink.
Are you ready?
Yep. And we're gonna get a little suction going here. And you want to hold this tube as close to the end as possible. This actually came with a little clamp thing. It's a pain in the butt to use. I tried using it once. I got about halfway through the batch and I threw the thing. It's in the box, but I never use it.
I have some of those. I've never used them either.
They're nothing but a pain. Pinch it with your fingers, and you're usually pretty good to move it from bottle to bottle. If you get this level, water finds its own level, liquid finds its own level, which means that once you've got liquid all the way through this tube, it's going to run to the lowest point. So it's down here, it's coming out down here. You raise this up, and it's going to run back into the bucket. But if you do raise it up so that the tip is above the level in the bucket, but this dippy part here is below the level in the bucket,
You won't
lose your suction. You won't lose your siphon. So, all right.
Right.
Ready?
Yep.
You got it.
Got it that time.
There is a pretty simple piece of equipment out there called an auto siphon.
Which I was strongly recommend you invest in. And you want to leave a little bit of headspace in these. You don't have to leave a heck of a lot.
Like you get in a commercial beer.
Yeah. But if you fill it up almost all the way, it's good. And you're going to get some foam. Definitely going to get some foam doing this.
Yeah. When the foam is at the top of the bottle, it's time to move to the next one.
Stop.
Probably
Come back a little later.
after it settles.
I made a mess there. Like I said, this is going to happen. If you're doing it this way, you're absolutely positively going to spill some. There's no two ways around it.
That's why I wouldn't have done it in a cardboard case and would have done it on like a cookie sheet or something.
We're going to put the rest in here.
The beer?
Yeah.
That's your bottling bucket, huh?
That's my bottling bucket. It's my sanitizing bucket. It's my everything bucket. And 6 beers, 6 bottle caps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, damn, I'm good. Bottle capper. Now this thing's got a little magnet in there. Flip this around so I can see what you're seeing. All right, so there's a little magnet in there, and kind of holds the bottle cap. When you clamp the sides down, it wraps around the bottle. Push it down, and it pushes it onto the bottle, and this little thing here crimps the edges down for you. Most of these bottles are the old-fashioned standard bottles. They're not twist tops. A lot of people tell you don't use twist tops. They don't seal good. They break easy and blah blah blah. You know what? I never had a problem. I've had one twist top break in all the years I've been bottling. Not a problem.
Buy some good beer.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's what you got available, you know.
Get
But if you got twist tops, they're still a twist top, and when you go to open them up, you can twist them off with your hand. And there we go. You might want to rinse them off a little, get the beer off the outside. We know that this is a 5-ounce container, and we know that 5 ounces does 5 gallons. We got 2 gallons, so 2/5 of this. So if you were eyeballing it, you could probably get pretty close with 2/5. I'd imagine you could probably go online and find out how many, tablespoons, an ounce of corn sugar is. Right at 2. All right, so that's 2 ounces of sugar. I'm just gonna pop that in there. Got our sugar in there. Spoon. Just kind of stir it up so the sugar dissolves. All right. Get this up so that you got basically so your level of water or level of beer is above those bottles down there. Can't put it on the floor.
We're gonna fill it up with a siphon just like we did
All
the
right.
others.
I like Scott, have not done a lot of bottling lately, and we're going to be doing a lot more bottling for the show, so guess I'll just have to suck it up and start get used to bottling again. With the sugar being dissolved in the entire wort, you're not going to end up with a little bit of sugar in one bottle and a lot of sugar in another, so your bottles are going to be much more consistent. in their carbonation. You're much less likely to have one explode.
A bottle bomb.
Unless you have them all explode. Now, a quick note, if you do, for some reason, end up with some bottles, if you start sampling your beer at 2 weeks, and you open it up and it starts gushing all over the place, the best thing to do is, first of all, drink the beer as fast as possible. Don't wait 6 weeks and hope it's gonna,
That
taste,
beer, or the batch of beer?
that
or
batch
what
of beer.
That
And
batch
don't-
of beer.
don't-
Drink it as quick as
drink it
possible.
as quick as possible, because the longer it sits, the more likely you are to have something explode in your closet. And the second thing to do is to put it in the refrigerator and maybe wrap the bottles in towels or something.
Getting them cold, putting them in the refrigerator is good. Just when you cool it down, the yeast kind of goes to sleep.
All right, so we're gonna actually test out our first beer here. This is our American Light Ale that we brewed earlier today, which was actually 4 weeks ago. So this is episode 1, our American Light Ale. And we're going to use the Beer Judge Certification Program score sheet from the American Home Brewers Association. If you want to judge your own beers, or if you're judging beers that you're out at the bar and you want to judge your beer, you can print these out online. A little PDF we downloaded, and you're good to go. So we're going to just kind of go through and hit the main categories and rank this. Now, being that this is a very young ale, it's really only been in the bottle for a week, so shouldn't be super well conditioned yet, although it did spend 3 weeks in the primary, so it should have a fair amount of conditioning. There's a whole bunch of descriptors on the side here, on the left-hand side. They kind of look like they're mostly negative aspects. I'm not going to read through them all. If we find something that if it's one of those, we'll definitely mention it. We're going to stick to the main 5 categories. In the top of the list is a bottle inspection, but it really isn't ranked as a category. But it's just appropriate size, that it's capped properly, filled properly, and that you got the label removed. Basically, that it looks like a good bottle of beer, kind of like this one here. I think that looks really good.
Yep.
Scott said it's not filled.
It's not quite as full as I think it should be, but
So he marked off for that. So.
well, there's no points in this category, so it doesn't really get us. They got a total possibility of 50 points total,
Yeah.
but there is some comments, and it's just not quite full enough.
Okay. First category is aroma, which is appropriate for style. Should comment on the malt, the hops, esters, and other aromatics. That's worth 12 points. So, pop this puppy open. And it did not gush.
Always good.
I got lots of head there. All right.
Smells like beer.
Yeah, it does. It's a little sharp.
It's actually, I'm surprised it's as carbonated as it is after a week too. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's a little sharp,
Yeah.
but that's probably comes from the age. I guess alcoholic.
And some people
We'll call it hot.
like crisp beers.
Yeah. So we'll call it. I'll give that a mark for alcoholic, because I expected that, because it is young, and that's something that's gonna come down the road.
I'm writing down green.
Green.
I'm
It
not
is.
writing down anything because
One more pen.
no, it came back to life.
I'm not really tasting any esters, I wouldn't say.
No.
I'd say for an American beer, the malt and the hoppiness is pretty
Yeah, it's not
appropriate.
bad, yeah.
I mean, it is a kit, so it really shouldn't.
Right.
It should be pretty darn
Shouldn't go
close.
too far off, yeah.
So I'm gonna write down my score. You write down your score.
I wrote down 9.
I gave it a 10, and yeah, I can see either one of those. So it's a out of 12. It's definitely, it's not a 10 out of 10. It's a 10 or a 9 out of 12. It's definitely appropriate for the style, and it's pretty good. It'll be much better in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
In 5 weeks. Next is appearance. This is for 3 points. And also appropriate for style. Comment on color, clarity, head retention, color, and texture. And it's tough with these glasses for how clear it is. Oh, here we go. There's a light over there, Scott.
That one.
That
Alright.
works out pretty good.
Yeah, that one makes it look a lot better than the others, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
So I'm gonna say,
Yeah, it's not bad.
I'm gonna give that a 3.
Okay.
3 out of 3.
3 out of 3? Alright.
And then flavor, as appropriate for style. Again, comment on malt, hop, fermentation characteristics, balance, finish, aftertaste, and other flavor characteristics. This is out of 20. I'm giving it a 15 on flavor. I think it out of 20. Again, I think that'll improve.
I gave it a 14.
Yeah, you're more critical than I am.
Not much.
Not much. We're coming in pretty close on these.
Mouthfeel.
Out of 5. Comment on body, carbonation, warmth, creaminess, astringency, and other palate sensations. We both gave it a 4. It looks
Yeah.
like a little astringent.
I gave it a 4, but I don't think, you know what, I think at 6 weeks I'm still going to probably be giving it a 4. Just a hunch.
Yeah, I think it's a little. It is, I think the astringent.
Right.
It's a little. It's got. It definitely has a little, ting to it. But other than that, it's pretty good. And then overall impression. Comment on the overall drinking pleasure associated with entry, giving suggestions for improvement. Let it age. And we both gave it a 7 out of 10 on that. I think it's. I think it'll be better when it ages. So let's tally these numbers up here. 10, 20, 39. So you're probably at a 37.
Yeah, 21, 28, 37, yep.
So I'd say on average it's about a 38 out of 50. I'd say in 6 weeks it'll be into the 40s. All right.
Although on this bottom you get your other categories down there, I put it at the middle or on the good side. You got 5 possibilities, right?
Mhm.
Like in the first category, we're going from a classic example would be really good or not in style. Well, it's an American ale style. It's I give it
Give it a 4.
at least a 4 out of 5. Yeah, as far as
Technical merit, got flawless or significant flaws. I'd say I wouldn't say it's flawless, but it would,
yeah, but I'd
Give it
probably
a
go in
4.
3 or 4. 4.
and
Wonderful or lifeless. I think it's a pretty good beer. I'd give it a 4 there too. So.
I'd give it a 3 there. It's kind of in the middle of the road.
Okay.
So yeah. But yeah, I think it was about just, I don't know if it was the cheapest kit they had, but it was definitely one of the simplest.
And a beer that's a month old?
Yeah.
There you go.
And entirely great.
Okay.
This is episode 1 beer, American Light Ale. This is week 2 tasting. Definitely still has some foam to it. I'm way overrating this. Just looking at the numbers I'm giving it. I'm liking this beer.
I like it. Probably it's gonna be hard to.
I think that.
40.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
I don't know what I gave it last week though.
38, but I'm gonna be way higher than I was last week. Yeah, like a 46. I like it. So I gave it an 11 on aroma, 3 for appearance, 17 on flavor, 5 for mouthfeel, and 10 for overall impression. So basically, I knocked it 1 point on aroma and 3 points on flavor. Other than that, I think I'm very impressed. 1 week made a huge difference to me on that beer.
I think it is slightly better than it was last week. I gave it a 9 on aroma because it doesn't even smell like beer really. And then around my 3rd or 4th, I thought 1 scent of it actually struck me negatively, and I didn't like that. Unfortunately, I already wrote 9 down, so I would probably made that an 8 after that. But for flavor, I gave it a 17 out of 20. I like it. It's good. It's the carbonation seems to be fading quickly though, but that's probably because it's warm.
Yeah.
The lacing is fine. The head retention was, it started out pretty foamy, so it's gone. It's also part of probably because it's warm. That's what I wrote down too. We'd be better at 45 instead of 60.
68.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, some of my comments I had less sharp nice malty flavor, mild hoppiness, no noticeable esters. You said you did have something that you thought you tasted.
Something I smelled. I didn't taste anything. It tastes fine. It's just one time I took a.
Yeah, it's not bad. I did mark it
I don't
as
smell
being
it on
slightly
anything,
cloudy,
right?
but I mean, that's not enough to knock
No, I think
much on
It
appearance.
looks fine. Yeah, it looks good.
I got good body, well carbonated, no noticeable astringency, nice lids. Why don't you hold those bottles, those glasses over here just in case. Not a problem.
I think it's getting better, Chris.
Well, it's at 6 weeks.
I'm not finding what's wrong with it.
I'm digging it a little harder this time than I did the last time, to be honest with you. But I think I was over generous last time.
Right. There's nothing wrong with it, that's for sure. It's just
All right, so here I'll go first here, and then you. I gave it a. It's warm. It's warm. It's warm.
Yep.
Yeah, look at my lager built up. Keep it chilled. All right, so on this light American ale, I give it a 12 out of 12 on aroma. I'd say there was no noticeable esters. The aroma was consistent with the style. I was pretty happy with it. Appearance, I was a little more critical this time. It definitely is not as clear as I'd like it to be. It's a little, just a tad of a haze there. The color is appropriate, but the head retention really wasn't. I don't think it has good head retention. It seems to be going down really fast, and I think that's something I should have dinged it on last time. I didn't. For the flavor, I gave it an 18 out of 20. It's a little bit on the sweet side. Could use a little bit more hops to balance it out, but other than that, the finish is smooth, and the aftertaste is good. And everything else, mouthfeel, 5 out of 5. I think the body, the carbonation, the warmth, creaminess, and palate sensations were all good. Overall impression, 10 out of 10. That's very drinkable. So I gave it a 46.
I like the beer a lot too. I think it's gotten better over the weeks, and it's right where it should be. Hard to imagine it getting much better than it is right now. I think at 6 weeks it's probably about where it's gonna get,
Yeah.
and probably stay there for another couple months.
Yep.
And it's good. It's good beer. So for aroma, it says it's okay to good. I give it a 9 out of 10, or out of 12.
9 out of 12. Okay.
That's
probably our big difference right there.
Yeah, everything else, that'd be the 3 points that were off.
Yeah.
With appearance, it looks good. I thought it was clear. I mean, it's not perfectly clear, but I don't expect home brews to be as clear as, the BMC beer. So
Yeah.
it's, it's not filtered or anything. I don't know what it'd be like if it was cold and had some chill haze going on or anything.
Why?
Well, I thought my head was really thick in my glass. Yours poured out much better. I don't know what the difference, just the difference in the glass, or just poured one first.
Yours was first, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I gave it 3 out of 3 because there's only 3 points in that category, and if you only gave it 2, that's a heavy hit. So.
I only gave it 1.
Really?
I threw down and stomped on its neck.
Right. For flavor, I gave it 18 out of 20. I thought it was good. I thought it was balanced. It tastes as a light ale should, it's pretty much like a brewer's best BMC clone, right? Is what it was.
I don't know that it was
I
a
like
BMC
it better than
clone.
I got some Molson Canadians out there. You can compare it to that.
I think this is better than any of those. I wouldn't say this is a BMC clone. I don't.
Right.
I think this is definitely much better. And well, those are all lagers, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're lager and they're supposed to be.
So
Most of them are Budweiser Budweiser or my Blue and stuff or Pilsners. I don't know.
Yeah, lagers too. Okay.
I thought the card was right. It's fine. Body was good. The beer is good. And I gave it 4 out of 5, and then overall impression was that it's good beer at 6 weeks. I like it. I can give it 9 out of 10 for a total score of 43 out of 50.
I'm sure.
Give it past weeks.
My numbers were probably pretty close. I think you came up a little bit.
Come on, chug.